INFJs utilize their four fundamental traits to identify the cognitive processes they rely on the most to get through life. INFJs have a tendency to spend a lot of time alone because they are sensitive and introspective individuals. Many people wonder why they choose this lifestyle choice. Are you curious as to what some of the causes might be? Next, let's look into 6 causes of INFJ isolation from others. What drives INFJs to isolate themselves? 6 key justifications. 1. When experiencing an existential crisis, INFJs may withdraw themselves. You may be aware that INFJs prefer to err on the side of the known and the unknown when it comes to existential and philosophical concerns. Their mind and spirit find the intellectual and creative challenges they long for through the exploration of new abstract terrain. They also engage in a great deal of reflection and consistently work to better themselves. For instance, helping individuals enhance their capacity to promote harmonious social interactions through the development of their social skills, or recognizing their own bad habits so they can stop them, like waking up too late or occupying too much of the talk. A benefit of the INFJ's deeply entrenched tendency to constantly reflect on oneself is that they grow in a variety of psychological, moral, and intellectual domains and manage to meet a fairly high general level for most of them. For instance, INFJs are known for and actively work to protect the value of integrity. A drawback of the INFJs laboriously performing psychoanalytical brain surgery on oneself through introspection is that it is extremely intrusive and excruciatingly painful without any anesthetics. Most of the time, they won't allow themselves get away with anything. This is definitely no picnic, as you could have discovered if you took the time to honestly evaluate your own integrity, motivations, character, and behavioral patterns. Realizing you haven't been the person you thought you were might be incredibly startling. Or to realize that your life's trajectory up until this point has largely been a lie, and that you need to make a significant shift. These kinds of insights have the power to rock the globe. The INFJ has a high probability of going too deep when reflecting at times, since they are like the deep-sea scuba diver who explores on the edge of the depth where the ocean pressure starts to crush them. Because they may uncover conflicts in some of their core ideas by digging too far, INFJs may frequently find themselves in an existential crisis. The ensuing sensations of fear, bewilderment, and distress overwhelm them, so they separate themselves. In order to calm down when experiencing an existential crisis, INFPs sequester themselves. They are psychologically extremely vulnerable when they are experiencing an existential crisis. They detest being exposed, and they want to quickly achieve emotional stability without others knowing. Despite the fact that for most people, the worst course of action in dealing with a crisis of this scale is to isolate oneself. For the INFJ, retreating is a means to self-protect and become calm enough to begin dealing with their problem. 2. INFJs may isolate themselves since they like to work out issues on their own. INFJ's strong sense of independence may be a result of a coping mechanism developed in response to trauma, or simply their secretive, introverted disposition. The future. What is certain is that INFJs frequently face the world alone, sometimes even preferring it. INFJs may withdraw themselves when they are having troubles because they prefer to work things out on their own. They really need their alone time to reflect in order to do this, and they find that doing so works best for them alone. As an illustration, their safe haven, their bat cave, is their bedroom, house, or any other spot where they feel secure. INFJs are seasoned mavericks who think, analyze, and plan in their own special ways. They might believe that only their particular thinking is capable of solving their own INFJ challenges. Maybe a rigorous inductive conclusion arrived at after years of feeling out of place in society, and misunderstood. INFJs value independence and idealism, thus they appreciate effectiveness and restraint. The typical person's approach to problem solving may involve soliciting input from numerous friends and family members and acting on their suggestions. Sharing their specific issue with many individuals is time-consuming and exhausting to INFJs. Since they could have solved the problem alone, they could have saved all the time spent discussing it with others. Additionally, INFJs respect their privacy and dislike it when others are aware of their troubles on a personal level. An INFJ needs to be in charge of their own destiny and dislikes being helpless and overly reliant on others. INFJ's trust is particularly brittle, so when they reveal too much about themselves to others, they get nervous and self-conscious. Therefore, you wouldn't hear a peep unless you were their best buddy and honestly inquired. In order to plan their next best move out of the sticky predicament like a true superhero, they must return to the shadows of their bat cave. There, they will hang upside down. 3. Because they don't want to burden people with their difficulties, INFJs may isolate themselves. The INFJ's dogged desire to handle their own problems is closely related to their distaste for burdening others with them. INFJs could be thought of as the peacemakers in interpersonal relationships. They are extremely affable, sympathetic, and composed people who can readily alter their energy to that of whoever they are engaging with and put them at ease. Whether it be their keen, witty sense of humor or their excellent listening skills. A majority of the early psychological barriers that people erect against INFJs can be expertly dismantled. The extroverted feeling cognitive function of the INFJ is what makes them so adept at detecting the emotional climate. Talking about their issues with others would, in the INFJ's opinion, disturb that priceless peace because they genuinely feel responsible for the emotional atmosphere. INFJs are more convinced that they must be able to solve their difficulties on their own since they have strong senses of responsibility. INFJs excel at serving as many people's confidantes and counselors and respect others' need for assistance. Ironically, INFJs may think of their own need for assistance as being weak. I realize it's insane, yet things are as they are. In order to deal with their own issues without bothering others and maintain the peace, they isolate themselves. 4. INFJs may withdraw themselves in order to control their emotions. Self-isolation as a method of emotional regulation isn't just used by INFJs at the start of a frightening existential crisis. In fact, many people regularly employ isolation to help them control their emotions on a daily basis. INFJs can become overstimulated by the numerous impressions they are exposed to throughout the day because they are introverts and frequently extremely sensitive people. For instance, the INFJ's neurological system has seen significantly more stimulation than the average personality after a long day at work, a long commute home, or extensive social interaction. They must withdraw to a place that is calm and safe in order to lessen their emotions of exhaustion, overload, tension, or anxiety. Remember the introvert sanctuary. INFJs may take a few hours to settle their senses and feel comfortable again, depending on how extremely stimulating their day was. For most people, self-isolation is a daily necessity and their ideal strategy for controlling their emotions. 5. INFJs may withdraw when pursuing their objectives in life. The inclination of INFJs to be dreamers who also take extreme action is one of the characteristics that sets them apart from many other personality types. Even while not all INFJs have clearly defined life objectives, they all have a strong, innate sense that they must dedicate their lives to something more important and worthwhile. However, it might take a lot of introspection to figure out what it might be. For that reason, achieving tangible life goals could take a lifetime. In order to identify and achieve their life goals, INFJs may find themselves isolating themselves a lot. It is both a moral requirement and an essential need for them. INFJs frequently spend the most of their time in this purely secluded, bohemian, mad scientist existence on the periphery of social and societal systems in an effort to reach their imagined promised land. 6. When depressed, INFJs may separate themselves. As was previously noted, the INFJ is comparable to a deep-sea scuba diver who is trained to descend to a specific ocean depth. Going much deeper can be harmful for them even though it is their natural home and they truly need that depth to function correctly. Many people would assume that an INFJ in good health is already depressed based on their autonomous and solitary lifestyle. INFJs tend to live alone most of the time, but they also separate themselves when their depression descends too far. Many INFJs deal with depression as a mood illness at some point in their lives. It might be challenging to tell the difference between an INFJ's typical way of life and the overall signs of depression, disengagement from society and the outer world. To ensure that you are not going downhill, it is crucial to understand the signs of depression. If you suspect you might be sad or have a mental problem, please get professional help.